everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Law Firm Marketing. I'm your host, Mike Swanson, on behalf of the Law Practice Channel. And today we'll be hearing from two of the premier lawyers in the country who have built powerhouse law firms and really know how to do awesome marketing. So before we get started, a couple introductions. First, I'm Mike Swanson. I'm the CEO. Oh, this is live TV. Let me mute. Hang on. Okay, you can tell we're not faking it. I'm the CEO of Advocate Capital. I also wrote a book called How David Beats Goliath. It's the only finance training book ever published to help plaintiff lawyers. And if you'd like a copy of that book, message me after this webinar. We'd be happy to send a copy out to you. If you don't want it in actual book form, you prefer a PDF for reasons of the virus, well, we can do that too, no problem. All right, so our guests today, we're gonna start with Mr. Rocky McElhaney, and Rocky has decades of experience of running and building a powerhouse law firm in Nashville, Tennessee. He is the chief executive of the Rocky McElhaney firm, and he's joining us live from Nashville. Rocky, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Thanks so much for taking time to share your years of experience and knowledge with lawyers all across the country. By the way, many of them are actually Advocate Capital clients, and that's kind of one of the things that we do to help our clients out, is to share information. Our second guest is Mr. Brian LaBovick, and Brian has also, in a parallel fashion, developed a fantastic law firm down in South Florida, and he's joining us today. I think, is it West Palm? Come on in, Brian.
Hey, how are you? It is West Palm Beach. I'm actually in Palm Beach Gardens, which is a little north of West Palm Beach, to be completely accurate.
Okay, great. Well, before we get started, I have to do a disclaimer. So this webinar has been prepared for informational purposes only and is only intended to provide general knowledge. It is not meant to be specific advice for you or your law firm. You should consult your own tax, legal, accounting advisors before taking any actions. So this webinar has been brought to you by Advocate Capital. Disclaimer, I'm the CEO, Advocate, we are the purveyors of the AvalTrack case expense funding service since 1999. All right, let me turn off the share so we can see everybody better. Fantastic. And again, thank you both for being with us today. I know you have very busy days every day at a plaintiff law firm. There's never a boring day. And being willing to share information with lawyers across the country, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, I guess is how I describe it. So thank you. We're here to talk about marketing. And now I happen to live in Nashville, and I can't drive around Nashville for more than 5 or 10 minutes without seeing Mr. McElhaney's face on billboards and bus benches and all kinds of great places. So I'm going to go back and forth with each of you guys, but Rocky, what are the main strategies or techniques that you use in marketing your law firm?
That's a great question. You know, I could sit here and talk about how we, you know, try to geo fence around different places and how we pick where we put digital spots. But the main thing that I think is important for any practice area is determine what's your audience on the front end.
Okay.
Once you know your audience, then you can track some and prepare some different modalities and some different marketing techniques to reach those folks. We're looking for a haystack full of needles, not a needle in a haystack.
Okay.
So we try to put together strategies across all platforms that reach, you know, the target audience we have. So we do personal injury, plaintiff side personal injury work, and somebody might say, hey, anybody can get in a wreck anywhere, right? So how do you do that? Well, we know from diving into the statistics that there are certain portions of the population that are just more apt to have a wreck, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
In Nashville, you know, we have 3 major interstates come together. So folks that commute from the suburbs into Nashville to work are typically between the ages of 25 and 49. We know what they listen to on the way in. We know what routes they take, what's the most congested highways. We try to get into those areas so those people can, you know, be visible in the marketplace to what we perceive to be our target audience. And I think that's first step one.
Is going after identifying your audience. Brian, how about you? What strategies do you use mainly?
You know, it's interesting. Rocky, what you said is 100% right. Like really know and target your audience, and then you can use a strategy dependent on that target market. I'm going to take a step back from that, and I'm going to say that the best marketing that we ever got to in any of the strategies that we use, because I'm sure that Rocky and I have a lot of the same strategies. We've got TV, radio, outdoor. You've got, you know, your SEO, SEM on your website. You've got some PPC going on. You might be lead purchasing. You might have some niche, you know, like marketing going on for communities. You may do grassroots marketing. There's all this stuff out there, right? There's lots of strategies to be used, but you need to take a step back. And I think that when you're in a firm, you need to really understand your brand, right? Like, who are you, right? What is your brand? And every time you go to create market share, know what you want to create through the brand that you're presenting to the world, and stay true to who you want as your client. And then that dictates the strategy that you're going to use to find those people. And there's lots of strategies for lots of markets out there. But I think that the best marketing we ever did was a couple of years ago when we really got into brand. And that's the most important first step is that everything comes down to that, right? Brand, vision, culture, and those things are your marketing strategy. They dictate your marketing strategy.
Yeah, and you know, Rocky, I know you do that because I see how consistent your brand is, and the boxing gloves and all the great stuff that you do. Talk a little bit about the boxing gloves.
Yeah, well, so just to piggyback on what Brian was saying, and then I'll get to that.
Yeah.
So we look at that as well. You know, you got to get your message. Like, what is your message to the audience? You got to be consistent. And then, you know, I think Brian was speaking of some values-based marketing. You know, you want to get what your core firm values are out, you know, into the public, and what makes us different. What are our values different from the other guys, like the settlement mills and the churn and burn guys, which we're not. But when we really got serious about marketing back in 2009, and we needed to develop a tagline, because I had a crappy tagline that I did on my own without consulting with any industry experts. That put too much focus on one person as being the brand in the firm, which was me. So we had to get rid of that one. And so talking to people, they just said, listen, you've got the best gift that anybody could have with the name Rocky. You've got to just rip off 35 years of Sylvester Stallone. Everybody knows the song. Everybody knows the boxing. You know, and so our tagline is "We fight for you," which a lot of people use, but in conjunction with the gloves hanging, the red gloves hang off our logo. Those red gloves have become a hallmark of our marketing in the Nashville area.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't I recently see on social media actually boxing somebody or something?
Well, we just shot a brand new advertising campaign for TV, and I'm in a gym, like training, preparing to fight, but at the end of it, we're in the courtroom, so we're training to go into the courtroom. So it's a little mix on the, you know, another layer of the boxing.
Yeah, great. So the brand, I'm hearing you both say that, totally makes sense. Totally agree. I'm sure our audience as well. If you're starting out, you got to figure that brand out. You need to talk to somebody who can help you, somebody who's experienced, and not just make it up on your own if you want to be successful, I think. Well, let's talk about the different channels, and you both have mentioned some of them. Is there any one or two that are particularly effective for you, Brian, in terms of all the different channels that you use to communicate your brand?
Yeah, so because of the age of the practice, which I find it very interesting, Rocky. I don't know, I think you're probably a few years younger than me, but we also, boxing is my thing. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, I use blue boxing gloves. I've got them sitting up in my thing over there. They have the logo on the back of the boxing gloves, and yeah, it's really.
Wow, I didn't realize that when I invited you to be on that you guys are both red and blue, the red team and the blue team.
Our tagline is Warriors for Justice.
Okay,
so you know, and if you look at my TV commercial, I'm in a gym, I'm boxing in a gym. You know, I boxed in college. My nickname in college was Box. So interesting.
Wow. Well, I don't go to South Florida much, and I haven't seen your advertising. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, it's awesome. It's awesome, and I've loved your advertising because I've seen it. I told you for a couple of years now because I've been in Nashville a lot for my son. But the most effective channel for us, which we're on TV and all that, but you know, 30 years of being a a trial lawyer in Palm Beach County has created a referral base that really thrives on itself. And then we've taken that a step farther and we've made it an actual marketing channel where we've created this thing called the Family of Warriors. It's got its own brand, it's got its own system, and our highest level referral sources, which are many professionals, mostly lawyers that refer to us, are in this brand program where we present them with gifts and referral things, and we keep our firm top of mind. So that's kind of been my most dollar for dollar effective advertising. And that's kind of a weight of time thing as much as, and it's just, cost of client, right? But but on effective advertising, I don't know if you guys do SSD or not, Rocky, but the Social Security is a much different creature as far as a business model goes compared to the PI model. The workers' comp model is more similar to the PI model, but the SSD model is completely and utterly different. So for us, lead purchasing has been a very effective model to grow the SSD practice, where lead purchasing is terrible for us on a cost per case basis for the PI model. And so the most effective advertising for SSD so far has been leads, purchasing, and the most effective advertising marketing channel has been TV advertising.
Interesting. Rocky, how about you? What gives you the most bang for the buck? I see you do a lot of things.
Well, the year after year, our best, most valuable cases come from direct referral, word of mouth stuff, either from orthopedic surgeons, defense lawyers, probate lawyers, or former clients. So just making sure you provide excellent customer service so that the people leave the firm. I mean, you have to market to your clients as you're getting them, as you're onboarding them, as you're working the case. You're constantly, we're in a constant effort to market our skills, our values, our commitment to our client during that process. We think that really pays off at the end. From far as just a more global marketing, TV and digital, I think, are probably the two drivers for our cases. And I say probably because we try to dig into the metadata and analytics as deep as we can on every platform, but there's still no measurable way to determine the value of broadcast and cable advertising. We can look at Nielsen ratings, other things, and know how many eyeballs maybe have that TV on, but we don't know how many people are actually paying attention.
Right.
If there's one person sitting there or 8 people sitting there, and so while we're doing all that, broadcast and cable, we also have the billboards, and we also have the Google. And so what we found from trying to track is somebody will call in and we'll say, how'd you get to us today? What made you call our firm? And while some of them says, hey, I really like Rocky's ad commercials, most people say Google, right? Because in that moment, when they got hurt, they Google lawyers and they see Rocky or Brian, and they're like, oh, I know that guy. I trust that guy. And the top of mind's Google. So we have to try to drill down. Have you seen the commercials? What's your impression of it? Have you seen the billboard? What's your impression of that? And digital, you can really target with digital. And so while I still think broadcast and TV is very powerful, in our business and our model, there's definitely a shift year over year of where we place the resources more toward OTT and digital, away from cable and broadcast.
Okay, can you tell me what OTT means? I don't know, and maybe some of our viewers don't.
That's your cord cutters. Those are the folks that have stopped with cable subscription. So they're getting, it's your Hulu's, your Roku's, and all that platform.
I see. It's wow.
I think it stands for over the top.
Over the top. Okay. Okay. I learned something new today. That's cool. Well, we have noticed, so we've been underwriting law firms every day, reading their financial statements and tax returns every day for 21 years. So, you know, you learn certain things. And what we have noticed is some of the most profitable, successful firms are not necessarily spending that much on marketing. They have just built up what both of you, I think, do is the strong referral network. Because over time it builds and builds and builds. It's hard to start out that way, but what Rocky, what kind of things do you do to other than give great customer service? Do you actually have like a program to ask for referrals or folks that you know? How's that work?
Yeah, so you know, one of the things that we've done is we've tried to just build relationships with. It's just takes time to build relationships, and anytime you're in the market for a certain amount of time, you end up having opportunities to build relationships. So we try to work with firms that don't do what we do to cross referral, and we try to keep those relationships going. We work with orthopedic doctors to ask for referrals, but by helping them, like I have a program that I do for professionals, trying to teach them about umbrella coverage. And so I try to get my foot in door with a seminar, a lunchtime seminar about umbrella coverage, to explain to them about how umbrella can be used for but if you don't get a rider or an endorsement, it's not going to cover it. And a lot of these professionals have no idea that they're not insuring the most valuable people in their life, which is their family, in the event they're hurt, with an umbrella that covers They'll say, hey, listen, I got a $5 million umbrella. I'm like, does it cover you and your family in case you're hit by a drunk immigrant who's fled the country? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, let's check it out, you know?
Yeah.
And inevitably, it's like, so the value of that service to them creates a trust factor. We get some referrals from that. But we also try to market to, like you, I wrote a book, Winning Your Tennessee Personal Injury Case, and that's available on my website for free download. So if people get there, they can download that book. And if we feel like they do that, then we start drip campaigning them through their email to track them through the next couple of weeks so we can get them in the door. So just it's time consuming stuff, right? So it takes a little bit of time to create a commercial or to design a billboard, but then you spin it out there and it takes care of itself. The relationship building, the client building and all that takes more time. But I really think it's the more powerful marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if someone's starting out, they need to be thinking about that very intentionally right from the get-go to build that network up. Brian, tell us some more about your what's it called, a warrior team?
Warriors for Justice. That's our
Warriors for Justice.
vision.
Yeah,
that's our vision.
Okay.
We're Warriors for Justice. If you ask anybody in my practice, who are we? Just say those words. Who are we? Every single human being here from the day they get here knows you better say Warriors for Justice. And if you say, what is our mission? They're going to let you know, we maximize justice by aggressively fighting for our clients' rights. It'll just roll off their tongue. What are our core values? That stuff is ingrained in people here. And we start every meeting, everything we do starts with those three things: mission, vision, core values, and we move on from there. So I find that to be very effective in creating a culture, and culture beats everything, right? So that's absolutely the goal.
What other things do you do to?
I do want to say something about what Rocky said, because I think that he and I come from this transitional age of lawyers who didn't believe advertising was any good at all, right? Like that was terrible and you were a terrible human being if you were on the air, to recognizing that the lawyers who were on the air were extremely successful, but running settlement mills generally at first. And then lawyers who were running fast and on the air, but were actually giving quality legal services. Well, I've got a law firm here in town that is in no way a mill. They're like an 8-figure only law firm. They advertise on TV now, right? Because they want the branding, because they want that knowledge, right? But really good firms now, some of them, and then others are settlement mills, like you said. So it's gone all the way to where what Rocky said is 100% true. Now you've got TV dying. TV advertising is dying, and social is the thing. Like social is the thing. And now is the thing coming up, because social has been the thing for a while, but is the thing coming up OTT? All of this cord cutter, looking at Hulu, getting in front of people on YouTube ads, that stuff, right? So the multiple channels that have been opened up, and the movement of the human interaction with media and with entertainment has changed so much that people that are young starting out today are really in an interesting spot. I know a young man who started his law practice in the back of his car in 2017, only does social.
Wow.
And this year he's going to do 8 figures in PI fees.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible.
He has
Yeah.
no office. Everything is virtual. All associates are virtual. All workers are virtual.
Wow. Yeah, that
New
makes your head
business
explode. That makes your head explode, doesn't it? Yeah, I can remember going to best practices meetings back when the discussion was, should I have a website? Remember that?
model. Mhm.
1995, 96, 97. So should I have a website? Now it's, is anybody still in the yellow pages?
There are people still in the yellow
Are there?
pages, believe it or not.
No
Yeah, I
kidding.
think
I
that
have.
there are. Not many, but
Yeah. So, well, great. Let's talk more about social media. I know you're both active there. Brian, how important is social media to your practice? And, maybe top 1 or 2 things that you do on social media that seem to work.
so I think social media is critical to any practice now. I think that there's 2 methodologies that we're using on social media. A lot of it is branding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that branding is creating the knowledge in the community and in your base as to who you are so that people know, like, and trust you and know you, truly know you. I mean, social gives you the ability to let the public know who you are as a culture. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, part of our culture, we've created a program called Warriors Lunch Out. I read a book called Lucy's Lunch Out. I don't know if any of you have read it. It's a really good book. It's about how to treat your employees, basically. And this super bright woman started a business, and she started going out to lunch with her staff and got in touch with her staff. I started that program, Warriors Lunch Out here. It has been wonderful and eye-opening, but it's also been a great social opportunity because we film those things, we put a little video together, we let our staff talk in it and talk about who they are and what they like, and even individual things, like,
Hmm.
like, oh, you're getting a new dog, or you're trying to go to law school in a few years, things like that. So the public sees that and they're like, I really like these people. I want to use them. So for branding, it's amazing. And then you can do targeted advertising, and it's incredibly targeted when you want to get into Facebook ads, Instagram, etc. You can really target an audience. So we have a motorcycle practice here, Biker Warriors, and we can really target the motorcycle community with that information, and we can get to those people and let them
Mm-hmm.
know that we're here to help them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the beauty of social, right? So you can target and you can brand, and it's inexpensive compared to everything else, like
Oh gosh, yeah.
incredibly inexpensive.
Rocky, can you share a little bit, a few of the things that you think are working for you on social media? Your
I agree
approach?
with everything Brian said. What I would add is, I don't know the audience we have here today, but if you've got a growth-minded lawyer that's watching who, what can I take the next steps to try to grow something? I would say, number one of the best moves I ever made in marketing was to take a step back on and hire someone to manage some of this and get it off
Okay.
of me. So I would, say, suck it up, take a hit on what you take home and hire some, spend some overhead getting someone to manage social media for you. I mean, there's so much social media, you've got Twitter and Instagram, and which is the new Facebook, and you got to find people where they are, right, on these different platforms. And it takes
Mm-hmm.
time to create content. Right now, cost per 1,000 impressions is the lowest on social media. You can have 1,000 impressions on social media for like $2.50, $2.50, $3
Wow.
per 1,000.
No kidding.
No doubt.
You can't get that on radio, TV, any other type of
Mm-hmm.
broadcast. You can't get that kind of bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
So just stack everything into social, hire somebody to manage it, and then see where it goes from there. But we think that there's better engagement on video content. We try to create a lot of video content
Mm-hmm.
that humanizes us, like Brian said, to try to show our values and our community service. We do a lot of community service, so we highlight that on social media. So
Yeah.
the social media is integral at this point. It's a
Mm-hmm.
necessity.
hmm Yeah, I see law firms who apply to become our customers. We check them out, and they like don't have anything on social media. I'm like, how can that's like not having a website, 10 years ago.
Or they last posted in November of
Yeah,
2020.
yeah. Last tweet was a year and a half ago or something like that. We actually look at some of that just to see, are they really up to speed? So following up on that, one of the questions I wanted to ask both of you is about do you outsource, right? Or do you use an agency, or do you have staff that does that? And what's the best, easiest way to get started? I forget who goes first this time. Can we start with you, Rocky?
I think Rocky
Yeah,
does.
that's great.
Okay.
So we have a mix. I have a marketing team that's in-house that's what they do is
hmm
they streamline messaging and make sure that we're consistent across all platforms with messaging and branding. Manage the budget, have set the budget. So we have a chief
hmm
marketing officer that is at the C-suite level. That is, kind of the overview of everything. We have events and director who handles all promotional things, and then we have like a content coordinator, a content creator, Melissa, who's been with me for just celebrated her 10-year anniversary, who creates all of our content. We manage all that in-house. And then we work with vendors who have specialties for us. We have the media team that puts together the commercials and does the purchasing. And then we have an SEO guy that runs the website and all the SEO and everything that's based there. And then we have a digital component to that, a different guy who specializes in digital OTT, who handles the
hmm
digital component, geofencing of that and stuff like that. So we try to have very specialized vendors who just really know don't try to do it all. And we manage our own social media, except for the fact that the vendors do drop in the ads, branding ads into our social media. But other than that, the content's created in-house.
Wow. Brian, what's your approach? Outsource, in-house?
We are an identical
Ah,
situation, like really identically. We have a C-suite level marketing director. We have a referral marketing manager. We have a marketing assistant, social media assistant to drop content from internal, who
hmm
also is a pretty good video editor, does minor video editing from kind of the phone little things that go on, like people will videotape themselves and stuff, and she can do all that for us. And then we outsource a ton, right? Like, so we have an outsourced SEO, SEM person. We have an outsourced video content person. We have outsourced mass media person. Our
Okay.
social is split like yours is. We do in-house, minor branding content in-house, and then we have outsourced ad creation from another source.
Right.
So we have outsourced landing, PPC, LSAs, retargeting, OTT. So yeah, literally identical.
Wow. Interesting. That should tell our viewers something. They have that in common. So that's where you want to try to get to. By the way, you're welcome to ask questions today. If you want to just type your questions in the chat box, we'll see those and try to get to them as well. And we'll pause at the end to have a little Q&A session as well. So, boy, everything's changing so fast, isn't it? And what do you do in terms of just marketing and social and all these things that are happening, OTT, et cetera? What do you do, Brian, to keep up with the changes, to stay on top of that?
Oh, you know, it's so interesting to go from the young kid who was playing, on that what was it, Commodore 64 when I was
Yeah,
a
I
kid, and my
remember that.
parents couldn't figure out how to put Pong on the TV set, to being the old man who's like, what do you mean I have to know about TikTok? I don't want to dance on TikTok,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
oh no, can I use that? Am I allowed? So yeah, how do you keep up? The world is running fast, right?
hmm
I cannot wait to go to space. Anybody else want to go to space? I want to go to a commercial in space someday.
There you go.
Rocky's like, I don't know.
Seems kind
Blue Horizon, here I come. I want to see. Um,
nice view from up there, but seems like it'd be kind of boring. But
yeah, maybe just floating isn't. Yeah. Anyways, the bottom line is that you got to go to a ton of seminars. You got to hire a lot of people that are up on it.
mm-hmm.
Um, I don't want to say just young people, because there's some people our age that have kept up amazingly well and are
Huh.
really well versed, but young people, it's so fluent. I mean,
Yeah.
they're so fluent in all the technology in it. And
hmm
even my kids that are not, um, super technically driven kids, like none of my kids are computer science kids. They're all so technically proficient, you know? So just trying to keep up. I'm a member of, as you probably are too, Rocky, a number of trade organizations and lawyer organizations that help management and market and do things like that to keep up. And then you hire a bunch of people that teach you how to keep up.
There you go. Rocky, how do you stay on top of things technologically?
I think the key for any firm, any size, is to the extent you can, is specialization. You know, it's not my job to know all the current trends. It's my job to listen to the marketing team who keep up with the current trends and make these suggestions with our vendors of what we need to go and how we need to do it. And so even within our marketing team, there's specialization. Alexis has these jobs, Lauren has these jobs, Melissa has these jobs. Melissa stays up to speed on all new software, on video creating and content publication. Lauren keeps up with trends on how to better serve clients, do client gifting, public relations. And then Alexis is working on, you know, the more outside bubble of where we're going to put the money, what the budget needs to be. So this is the bigger thing. Like I said, I don't know the size of the firms that are on the webinar. My firm is not the biggest in the country. But anyway, we got like 8 or 9 lawyers, 40 people. We're 8 figures at times. In some years we slip back into 7 figures. But I couldn't get, if you're growth minded, it's really on the marketing side. From my standpoint, my thought is, and my experience is, you got to take a step back in what you're taking home. Like I had to hire these folks, right? And it took a while for all wildfire to catch on. And so I started doing this intentionally in 2009 and went on TV in 2013. So we've been on about 9 years. But in those first year we went on TV, I made half what I made the year before, personally.
Wow.
But those dollars spent, they don't have a dollar for dollar return. It's an exponential return over time. So if you're growth minded and you want to make a bigger splash in marketing, if that goes from spending 100,000 to 200,000 or spending from 500,000 to $1 million, you have to take a step back and say, look, I'm going to take a hit, but it's going to pay off. And I don't think any attorney would ever get on here and say that if you have the commitment to growing your firm and increasing your revenues, that you can't get there if you just find a way to spend, to increase your spend and spend it wisely. Our growth over dollar spent in marketing versus revenue is like, it's, you know, it's not dollar, it's an exponential return. And so that's what I would say, just think about how to get the next step, how to finance the next step, and understand that it could be a step back in order to get there. Adding people, adding specialization, it's very powerful.
Yeah. Brian, anything you want to add to that?
No, the only thing that I would add is that it just goes back, I think what Rocky said is super smart, which is you have to start with the vision of what you want to be, right? And really, there's a lot of people that get into the practice on their own, into the business of law, right? And some people have a very clear idea of what they want, you know, and then other people are just kind of, I just want to be on my own, and I just want to, you know, like I don't want to have a boss, or they got fired and they start on their own because they don't have a job and they just don't know what else to do. And so people start walking in the door, and the next thing you know, they're like, I got to learn divorce law, or I got to learn commercial or criminal or whatever walks through the door, right? Don't do that. Don't be that person who lets life dictate to you where you're going. Figure out what you want to be, figure out what you truly want to be, right? And recognize that when you grow into a big firm, more than, let's say, when I say big firm, I mean more than 5 lawyers and 20 staff, like you start to lose the ability to be the lawyer in your firm if you don't have professional management, right? So no, do you want to be a manager of your firm? I've got a buddy of mine in town, he's got an advertising firm, and he told me he was in it for 2 years. He goes, I don't want to be the lawyer anymore. He knew very early, I want to be a business owner. I want to be the businessman, right? And then I got another friend of mine who started a firm, and he goes, I want to be the lawyer, right? So he created a vision for his firm, and he's super successful. You're talking 5 lawyers, 8 figures every year, more, probably, 20 million a year, because he's got a very clear vision of who he wants to be and what he wants to be in the market, what his brand is, what his vision is, what his mission is. And when you clarify that, you can get to some really great decision making on building that model, right? So don't start spending money on TV if you don't want to build a giant firm and pay a big overhead. I mean, when you're paying 50 grand a week out in salaries, you got to turn some cases, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a question from a viewer. And I think this is probably based on something Rocky said, but I'd like to ask you both to respond if you'd like to. How do you market to your current clients? Rocky, I think you said you do that, right?
So you market to your current clients by, first of all, if you're going to start marketing or up your marketing in a growth-minded way, you got to really take care of the back of the house, okay, and get the processes and procedures in place that you can handle the influx of new business. One of the mistakes I made early on is not understanding the impact intentional marketing would have on the influx of calls, call volume, and all that. So we struggled early on to keep up with employee retention, employee hires in order to service the clients. And so what we try to do from the very beginning is we have a client portal through our case management program where clients can log in and have access to certain records. That's a marketing way that gives them information, that gives them immediate access at 2 in the morning when they're up worried. They can go in and look at what the last time we worked on their case was, what we did. They can review documents. We proactively call the clients. We have a schedule within our case management program where the paralegals reach out within 48 hours of us being hired. We have an intake department who signs them up. We have a legal secretary pool that opens the cases. Paralegals call. We're always in front of them. Then we have a video campaign that immediately goes out to the clients as their case goes through the phases. Like when we go from case opening to investigation, they get a video from me saying, immediately goes out from our case manager, says, hey, we got your case open completely. We're going to investigation. This is what we're going to be doing. This is your role. And then when it moves from investigation into lawsuit, we file suit within 45 days of every case in our firm. And there's many reasons for that, but we don't sit around trying to negotiate a settlement with some adjuster in a cubicle in Bloomington, Indiana, who could have no craps left to give about these cases and burn out. Best offers come in litigation. And so we file suit at 45 days so we can control everything. That puts us in front of the client more often. So the more we're in front of the client, the more that we're able to educate the client on the process. That's how we market to the client. We convert them and then we indoctrinate them, and then they become champions of the firm at the end. And it's a process you have to think about all the way through. How can we give the best customer service from the very first call until the exit survey, which goes out about 2 weeks after we disperse the check, right? And there's another survey at the front. The survey at the front says, hey, what's your expectation on client contact? Like, how often do you think you should hear from your lawyer? And number 2, how do you want to be contacted? You want text, email, phone call, and what's most important to you? And when we get those things, now if the client has crazy expectations, they say 3 times a day, right? Then we can educate them on how that's not reasonable. But if we don't know it, then we can't respond to the client's expectations. We have an onboarding survey, a middle of the road survey, and then we have an exit survey, which goes to the client. So when I say market, I'm not talking about taking them to the Sounds game or the Titans game or giving them gifts. I'm talking about the processes and procedures in place, build trust, build confidence, and they're not having to call us to say, hey, haven't heard from you guys in 3 months. What's going on with my case? That's the worst kind of call you ever get, because if that call comes in, you're not building trust.
Right. Wow. Those are some great practical tips too, Rocky. Thanks for sharing that. Brian, do you consider yourself that you market to your clients while they're clients?
Oh, absolutely. I call it good management is good marketing, right? Good case management, good internal management is all good marketing. Everything you do in your practice is marketing. because somebody from the outside is going to see that, feel that, touch that. Even your internal staff are going to see that, feel that, touch that, and know whether you're living up to your core values or you're not. So everything that we do, just like everything Rocky's doing, is to reach out and let the client know that we're living up to our core values and that we're gonna manage their case in a proactive way. I'm really impressed with the 45-day time drop. That's a very impressive thing that you're doing. We are not doing that. We have a slower process than he's got, but it's still relatively fast. So we have a 6-month drop dead date instead of 45 days, but it's still, I mean, it's for Florida, that's a pretty significant speed of service. I think that if you give clients a great experience, and we have the same workflows. So the workflows that you set up, this drip workflow or this set workflow and how you're gonna run a case comes right into your case management program. I think it's really important to have a case management system that allows people to do the things that are necessary in a case to get the case done and to make the marketing happen, right? Which is to keep your client informed, to give them things during the pendency of their case that make them know, like, and trust you more. So those videos that you're doing are brilliant. You know, I would love to get that done. A friend of mine, Judge Shaw, just started that. He sent me his videos, like his internal, you know, case management while it's going through videos. And I thought, we've got to get that done. So that's something that's coming for my firm. But we definitely have very set moments where we reach back out to the client at set intervals, and no client goes 30 days without contact. I mean, no client should ever have a 30-day time period go by where they don't hear. I think that the biggest problem that happens in most firms is the moment where you have that cognitive dissonance, feeling like you made the wrong choice. So you're a consumer and you're like, I'm gonna call Joe Smith because I really like the way he looks on TV. And you call up at 2 o'clock in the morning and a person answers that's super friendly and you get this great experience and you sign an electronic document and they say, welcome to the firm. And then nothing happens for 2 weeks. And what you're saying to yourself is, did I pick the wrong place? Or do they know me? Do they have me? And so you call and you're like, hey, I haven't got a call for 2 weeks. So like, oh yeah, we got your case. We got your case. We're working on it. We're gonna let you know. Just let us know who your doctor is, and then you don't hear from him for another month. And that kills your forward momentum with clients trusting you. And then you get these negative reviews. People are mad. They don't trust you on settlement. I mean, you need to let your clients know that you're there for them. And you also, I think the other thing we do that's really important is you need to train your people to have a passion to serve, which means you need to be empathetic. You need to train for empathy so that people treat people in your, they need to, I hate to say it this way, but they need to vomit their facts on you. And they need to spill all of that emotion and all of that stuff out so that they can feel like somebody knows them, knows their problem, understands it, and can help fix it. And when you do that, you develop that relationship, and it becomes a hard thing to break, and it builds over time. You know, like over time, when you do that for people, they know, like, and trust you, and they tell people.
Brilliant. I don't know if you know Stephen Fairley.
I would say
please.
Where what Brian just said intersects directly with marketing. And to bring this back to the topic, I know we're talking about practice management stuff here, but where this intersects with marketing is if your marketing reaches someone who calls your office, that person wants to trust you. There's something about your messaging that has resonated with them, and they want to trust you. You just have to give them the next reason to take the next step. And then when you get 6 weeks before trial and the best offers on the table that they need to take, it would be a mistake not to take it. They'll trust you then. But if you have to continue to build a relationship, like, who's this joker to tell me I need to take $60,000 when I want $300,000? What? If you haven't built that relationship, so marketing brings them in, but the internal marketing, the internal client relationship is what allows you to have their trust at the end, and then you deputize them or you discipleship them, and they go out and become the next warrior for justice, sending you the next guy that gets hurt at church or at work or whatever.
Right. This is awesome. I wish we had 2 hours today, but we don't. So we have at most about another 5 or 10 minutes. So a couple other questions coming in soon. I wonder if you'd be willing to share briefly a mistake you made with regard to marketing or something that impacts the marketing of your firm. Brian, can you recall a mistake that you made that other people could learn from who are starting out?
So yeah, the worst mistake I ever made is back in 2010 when I broke my brand. I
Mm,
had that brand as a civil justice prosecutor. We're now Warriors for Justice, but in 2009, when the world crashed and things got tough, I broke the brand. I broke where I was going. I broke the direction out of
mm,
financial panic, basically,
mm,
and I allowed other people to come in. We were doing things that were off brand, off mission, off vision,
mm,
and it really cost me with forward momentum. And while
mm,
some things came and went, I mean, we were doing mortgage modifications and bankruptcies and divorces and commercial and all sorts of crazy stuff that,
mm,
were not on brand for me, were not on mission for me. And it wasn't until I brought it back and I really got clear about where I was and put that message back into the world that we started to get a lot of forward
mhm.
momentum. And then since that time, it's been an exponential explosion. But
Yeah.
that was a huge mistake. You need to
Mhm.
you need to know who you are, and you need to. That's why I keep harping on that, right? Because that was my biggest mistake.
Hmm. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Rocky, can you think of any mistakes you've made that people could
Yeah,
learn from?
two things I'll mention really briefly. First of all, I did not prepare on the front end for the change and the influx of potential client contacts from doing intentional marketing, doing more public-based marketing. And so I would recommend that anyone who is going to, start increasing their spend, to make sure they have the people that can field the calls, that probably people who don't work there right now. Because if you tax your resources, your employees, with more work, then it just means the funnel, funnel on the front side's open, but the funnel on the back side of closing out cases is closed, and there's a choke in the middle. And that's the fact the choke comes from you not having enough people.
Mm,
So you have to be able to handle that. And I didn't do that very well in the front end. I didn't have a roadmap, or the webinar like this to listen to.
mm-hmm.
But I really think staffing up and make sure you take care of the back of the house issues. And the second thing is I stayed in Yellow Pages way too long, probably
Mm,
at least 2 years too long.
mm,
And I told the people all around me when they were saying, you got to get out of this Yellow Page stuff. I'm like, you're talking like, that's like telling a crack addict he's got to go to rehab, right? I mean, I was from 2002,
yeah.
until 2009, 10, all my referrals were coming from Yellow Pages. I had the magnet on the front and the back cover and double trucks inside in every county around Nashville. And I was just so scared.
Mm,
But now we're looking at that with the broadcast TV. We're at the same place. And I'm learning from that mistake. And every year we shift budget from TV to another avenue,
mm-hmm.
digital and OTT. Just it's percentages, but we shift because every year people are cutting the cord. I mean, cable is just too
Mm-hmm.
expensive.
Yeah.
Millennials could care less
Yeah.
about local news. So you got to understand where the next wave of change is coming. And so,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I took the needle out, I threw it down, quit, uh, uh, quit the Yellow Pages cold turkey in 2011, and it was the greatest decision I ever made.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you both. We have time for one more question, and it is, what do either of you do to stay in touch with clients after their case? And I'm just going to ask Rocky first. No, it's Brian's turn to go first.
Go, Brian.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. We actually do a lot. So in that Family of Warriors program, we have a
Mm-hmm.
marketing department. The marketing department has a forever drip. We have a forever marketing drip campaign, and that goes out in a number of different ways. Sometimes it's a mailer, sometimes it's a holiday card, sometimes it's a birthday gift, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's an email campaign that goes out monthly, newsletters, giveaways.
Wow.
Um, we also started a community foundation. We haven't really talked about community advertising or marketing through community-based activity, but I find that to be incredibly, rewarding and engaging and fulfilling, and people should really consider that because it's a magnificent way of getting to a clientele. But we do that. I have a foundation that we started, Safety for Life Foundation, hits almost every kid in Palm Beach County. I present to them, and I'm constantly there giving them stuff in the community to keep our name out there, and we take care of it. My wife is, interestingly enough, also a lawyer and also my partner, and should be our CEO because she is a better leader than I am and a better organizer. And I should be doing identically to what you're doing, but she knows that that's a hard job. But anyway, so it's so funny that, you know, we have all this in common. Regardless, she's in the PACE board and dealing with kids too. So that community engagement, religious engagement is incredible. And that's how you keep up with your clients.
And Rocky, what do you do, if anything, to stay in touch with clients after, you know?
All the same things Brian just said. Christmas cards every year, newsletters which go out, paper copies maybe once or twice a year, but email copies every other time. We do announcements through email, Facebook, you know, maintaining our followers through Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. And the only thing I do that I didn't hear Brian say is every time we sign up a new case, we onboard a case, I do a handwritten card, you know, to say thank you for trusting us. We're going to honor that with dedication to you and your case. And at the end of the case, I do a handwritten card that says, you know, congratulations on selling your case. I know it's going to be a big stress relief for you, and hopefully your family can heal now and stuff like that. So I do a handwritten card from me on the front end and the back end. But other than that, I do the same thing that Brian does.
Can you believe there are law firms that don't do anything after the client's gone? They're a law firm. I speak to them. They that's it. They got the settlement, they got their fee, and they never reach out to that client. I can't believe that people don't do that. So, well, we're coming to the end of our hour, and it has been fascinating for me. I know for our viewers as well. And folks, if you would like to get in touch with Rocky, hopefully I'm doing this right. You should see his contact information on your screen. Make sure that's up. Yes, this is Rocky's contact information. If you wanted to reach out to him, make friends, learn, refer a case to him, whatever you want to do with that. And also, I want to get Brian's contact information on the screen as well for a moment or two. And I want to thank you both very, very much for being with us today. It's been a fascinating hour. There will be a recording of this that goes out to everybody who registered, and of course to both of you, in case you want to share or watch some of it again. This is my contact information. If you'd like a copy of my book or ask a question or two, I'm happy to speak with you. This webinar has been brought to you by Advocate Capital. We are purveyors of the AvalTrack Case Expense Funding Service and lots of other good things for plaintiff lawyers. And you can get more information to help your practice at lawpracticechannel.com. And once again, Brian and Rocky, thank you so much for being with us today, and continued success. And I look forward to seeing you both in person, so hopefully someday soon.